Hello, my ADHD kitties. Today we continue our trip to the land of polynomials. We added, subtracted, and now it's time to multiply. The challenge is your calculator accommodation. Use it for integers like a breeze. Time to learn in a new way. We'll have variables and coefficients, aka letters and numbers. Get ready to take notes. I'll tell you when. Let's go. So here we are at the world of multiplying polynomials. And if you look below here, you'll see the example of what we're going to use today. And what you want to write is exactly what you see on the screen. FOIL, F-O-I-L, and that stands for first, outside, inside, and last. So as you're copying this down, make sure in the FOIL that you are writing down capital letters. So these are all capital letters. And that will remind you what FOIL stands for. First, outside, inside, and last. Go ahead and copy. Please remember that you have extended time. So if you need extra time to get it copied down, make sure you either do that or you ask for notes from your teacher. Empowerment, ladies and gentlemen, empowerment. Okay, so here we go. You can see again, we've got our trusty FOIL, first, outside, inside, and last, and that is what you copied down in your notes already. You'll also notice this, 2x plus 3 times x minus 5, as something that you've also written in your notes. What we're going to do now is identify what FOIL means. So let's see, undo. So we're going to look at the first term in each binomial, and you're going to draw an arc and put an arrow on each end. And those are the first terms, so that is what our first means. The outside terms are the two that are the farthest away, and you're going to make a nice big smiley face, and those are the outside terms. So you can probably guess the two that are closest together make another smiley face, and that is I for inside. And either you can figure out the last two that are left or the last term in each binomial, and that would be L for last. So this is really important. And it's so important that I've taped this like 10 times just to get the handwriting really neat. So what you need to do is to use your best monster handwriting like I did and make sure that all the numbers are split up so you can tell exactly where the letters go and where the arrows go. Take your time. If you have a scribe accommodation, use it. Okay, so looking at the screen, you'll see a couple things that you've seen before. The first one is the FOIL and what it stands for. First, outside, inside, and last. And then you'll also see that we've got our same equation that we're working on. You'll notice down here that it looks a little bit different, but it's the same numbers that we came up with on the smiley face. So really fast, we're going to go through and make some calculations. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 5x is negative 10x. 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times negative 5, which you can do on your calculator, is negative 15. So that is that. Copy it down, every part of it. Here are the 4 terms that we just had from our FOIL calculations. So if you take a look at the x squareds, you can see that there's only 1. So I'm going to put 2x squared. Looking at the next term, there's an x there, and on the 3x, there's also an x there. So we're going to come back and take a look at that in a second. If you look at our last term, there's only 1 integer, so you're just going to put negative 15. So here's where it gets interesting. With the x, there's also a coefficient or a number that is with the x. So you have negative 10 plus 3 is negative 7, and then you're going to bring down the x. So all of that multiplication, all those steps, ends up being 2x squared minus 7x minus 15 is the answer. Now I know that seems like a lot, but there's another way that we can do it that lets you work on your calculator accommodation. So this is the box method, and hopefully this will be a little bit easier for you to use. And the good part is that it is easier to use your calculator accommodation this way. So going forward, you'll see our first binomial is 2x plus 3. So going along the top, the first box has a 2x, and the second box has a 3. Using the x minus 5, it goes up and down, so the x goes on the top, and the negative 5 goes on the bottom. So this actually is pretty quick, because the goal of this screen is just to recognize that this is where the 2x comes from, this is where the 3 comes from, this is where the x comes from, and this is where the negative 5 comes from. Now let's see what happens. So here's our box again, and you can see now that it's nice and clean. And what we're trying to figure out is to figure out what goes inside of the box. So in this one, it is in the top and on the left. So it's going to be 2x times x. So this one is going to be the 3 and times x. This is in the bottom on the left, so taking the 2x and multiplying it times negative 5. And this one is in the bottom on the right, so taking the one on the right, which is 3, and the one on the bottom, which is negative 5. Now that might not seem like such a big deal, but this gets rid of the smiley faces. And so this gives you a nice way to be able to figure out how to put this into your calculator. So copy this down and make the box nice and big, make the numbers nice and big, make the letters nice and big. Make sure that you can fit everything in because I'm only writing this out once. Okay, back to the boxes. The first thing that you'll know right here to the left of each X is the number 1, because when you take 1 times any number, it's just the number. So what we're going to do is to take 2 times 1 times X times X. And then with your calculator, you know that 2 times 1 is just 2, and X times X is X squared. Not so bad. So take the next one. We have 3 times 1 times X. And 3 times 1 is 3, and then you've got the X left over. So looking at this one in the bottom left-hand corner, you're going to say 2 times negative 5 times X. So grab your calculator and you'll see that 2 times negative 5 is, and bring down the X. And then the last one is just 3 times negative 5, which is negative 15. So write this down, every single term, and make sure that you notice that the terms that I'm circling are the same ones that you came up with on FOIL. The difference is that this time you got to use your calculator. So make sure that you write everything down, and then we'll have the final steps. Okay, so here we are back where we started. So underlining the first term has an X squared, and there are no more X squared, so we're just going to bring that down. On our second two terms are 10x and 3x. They both have an X, so we're just going to hold off on those for a second. There's only one integer, and that's negative 15, so we're just going to bring that down. So here's the tricky part. We're looking for the coefficients that go along with X. In other words, what are the numbers that are with the X? So we have a negative 10 and a positive 3. Grab your calculators. It's just plain old integers. Negative 10 plus 3 is negative 7. And then we're just going to bring down the X. So the answer is 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. And that's the same answer that we got with FOIL. The difference is that you got to use your calculator accommodation more often. Well, we made it through our first journey of multiplying polynomials. Don't worry if it doesn't make sense. Just hang in there. Learning is a process. And remember, Edie loves math, even if you don't. Ciao.